Yeah.
So Purim cycles. Vilna Esra, Chaz question. So that's what we have. Why we have a picture of those week hopefully we can look at some pictures.
All right, this is not going to work.
We had a tissue box last time.
Yeah, we had a tissue box. They make these things so they'll break. Anyway, we'll just have to make do somehow. Anyway, welcome to Yevamos, the Masechta which scares me the most in Shas. We don't have the book from last time? Were you not with us last time? Okay, this is the book, Nachas Tzvi. Since nobody else has it except me and Dr. Giselle, who obviously did not bring it tonight, so therefore we'll have to share. In any event, right off the bat, I doubt it, but later this year you should be able to when Daf Yomi Bavli starts Yevamos. In any event, right off the bat, Chameshes Noshim Potros Soroseim. The first page, the 15 women exempt their co-wives from Yibum. Now, co-wives means, of course, in the days when everybody could have two wives. The good old days or bad old days, depending on your perspective. So, if let's say the concept of Yibum is that if somebody has a brother who dies, then the brother dies childless, then the brother, one of the remaining brothers, marries or is miyabim, to use a more precise term, the wife of the widow of his deceased brother, and in that fashion the house still remains operative. Now, the case of Yibum only applies in certain instances, in other instances it does not. And the Mishnah is going to give the cases where 15 women are exempt. They exempt their co-wives, and not only they exempt their co-wives, they exempt the co-wives of their co-wives. Mina chalitza, mina yibum, from chalitza and from yibum, atzaf olam. Now yibum is the levirate marriage, as it's called in English, where you do take your brother's wife. Chalitza is where you go through a ceremony in which you repudiate your brother's wife. But the idea is the same. Where you're susceptible to Yibum, you're susceptible to Chalitza, or you're susceptible to Chalitza, you're susceptible to Yibum, except in rare cases, which the Masechta will discuss. Do not worry, they will come up. Okay? Now, who are these 15 women? So they're Bito. I'm just going to go through the pictures, because these are actually easy ones. Later on in the Masechta they get complicated, although scanning the Nachlas Tzvi and the Yerushalmi, it's nothing like the Nachlas Tzvi and the Bavli, which is the good news. So here we have, so just get used, so you get used to the system, okay? So everybody's got to look in together here. Alright, so the system is, he claims not. Who would you call?
Chicago Hebrew Bookstore said their supplier.
Oh, you called here.
Yeah.
Oh, you call Beagle Eyes in New York, they might have it.
What about the other one?
Which one? Eichler's. Yeah, they might have it. Eichler's, 1-800 Eichler's. Yeah, they probably do. That was not a paid plug. Okay. So anyway, so look, here's the way the pictures work. This is heavy black lines, of course, mean death.
Yeah,
The houses like this, little houses, mean marriage. Okay, lines represent the next generation. Okay, black dots mean they're forbidden to be miyabe, to do yibum. White dots would mean they're permissible to do yibum. Okay, now here, Yaakov had a daughter. His daughter's name was Dinah. Dinah married Yaakov's brother Yitzchak. That's permitted, of course, right? So now Yitzchak died. Dinah is not allowed to marry Yaakov, of course, because Dinah is Yaakov's daughter. Right. So in this case, there is no mitzvah of Yibum, nor is there a mitzvah of Chalitza. Now, this is a case where the same case extended to a tzara, meaning a co-wife. Yaakov gave birth to Dinah. Dinah married Yitzchak, his brother, her uncle, which is permissible according to Jewish law. Dinah had a co-wife, meaning Yitzchak had two wives, Dinah and Rachel, some other woman. When Yitzchak dies, since Yaakov cannot marry Dinah, he cannot marry Rachel either. He cannot do Yibum neither to Dinah nor to Rachel. That's a tzara. Then there's tzarosehen, right? Double tzara. Oh boy, double woes. What happens like this? Again, Yaakov gave birth to Dinah. Dinah married first Yitzchak. That's one of his brothers, right? And Dinah and there was a co-wife, Rachel, right? Now Yitzchak died. Now Yaakov can't marry either woman because one of his sister, one is his daughter, one's the co-wife of his daughter. So instead, Rachel goes and is Messiah Bemes. She goes to a third brother, Reuven. Okay, so his third brother contracts marriage, the Yibum, with Rachel, right? So now, then Reuven dies. So
Contracts, not contracts. Although it really depends on
so Rachel now Reuven dies. So now Rachel is still exempt because she was once Dinah, Yaakov's daughter's co-wife. But now is Rachel exempt, but now Leah, who was Reuven's other wife, is exempt as well. So actually that's Tsaroseyan, meaning there was one co-wife relationship, Dinah to Rachel, that exempted Rachel. And there was another co-wife relationship, Rachel to Leah, that exempted Leah. Okay, so that's the Tzara of the Tzara. Everybody get that? Again, see how fun Yevamos is going to be? So the co-wives are exempt from Yibum because one of them is forbidden to the Yavam, and the co-wife of a co-wife is exempt from the Yibum because one of them is forbidden to the Yavam. Okay, so those are those cases, the cases which would, that's all as pertains to daughter, which is the first case. Now, of course, all the other cases in the Mishnah follow. Baspito, I don't have to show you the diagram on that, but I will anyway, just so you're familiarized with the diagram system continually. In other words, Yaakov had a daughter, Dinah. Dinah had a daughter, Tamar. Tamar, Yaakov's granddaughter, who was forbidden to him, went and married his brother, Yitzchak, right? So now Yaakov can't marry Tamar, so therefore there's no Yibum. And the same thing if Tamar had a co-wife, and the co-wife then went and married another brother, the same idea. Okay? And so on and so forth. So that's Bito. Ubas Bito, the daughter of his daughter. Ubas Beno, the daughter of his son. There's also a granddaughter just on the other side. Bas Ishto. Now, Nachalas Tzvi. Nun Ches Lamed Sof. New word. Tzadi Beis Yud. Boy, you guys really are enamored with this book. Didn't take very long.
I had it prepared on the table.
Does it bring back fond memories?
I guess that's why I got it.
Okay, you didn't ever had a book like this, right?
No, we used to plot it out by hand.
Yeah, see, we're so advanced.
It's a good book.
Okay, we're waiting patiently here. Okay. I'm not trying to be mean or anything about it. So in any event, so the Gemara goes on and says, of course, the Mishnah goes on and says, Ubas, third line, Bas Ishto. This is an interesting case worth seeing. Bas Ishto means, here again, wherever, going further in our exploring this book, wherever the line is not direct, it means that there's only there's an indirect relationship. So here, for example, Rachel, who's Yaakov's wife, had a daughter by previous marriage, who's Dinah, who's of course now Yaakov's wife's daughter, but not his stepdaughter, but not his actual daughter. This Dinah went and married Yaakov's sister, Yitzchak, right? Yaakov's brother, Yitzchak. Then Yitzchak died, so Yaakov cannot be Miyabim Dinah, because just like you're not allowed to marry your own daughter, you're also not allowed to marry your wife's daughter, okay? That's Bas Ishto. Ubas Beno, or his wife's granddaughter through her son, Ubas Bito, should be Ubas Bito, and her granddaughter through her daughter. The Chamoso, another cool case. Not every diagram we have to look up. Here's this case here. Chamoso, your mother-in-law. Yaakov was married to Dinah, right? Dinah's mother was Rachel. Rachel went and married Yaakov's brother, right? So this is so then Yitzchak's brother died. Yaakov's brother died. Yaakov's brother Yitzchak died. So now actually his mother-in-law is open for him for Yibum. So in that case, lucky for him, he's exempt from doing Yibum or Chalitza. So that's Chamoso. Ve'em Chamoso, that's his mother-in-law. The same thing is true about his grandmother-in-law. We'll skip that case for now, or I'll skip the diagram. And Ve'em Chamiv, his grandmother-in-law through his father-in-law. Achoso, his own sister, who's married to his brother. Now the way that works is pretty cool. The way it works is that it's his achoso. It has to be his sister from his mother's side, right? Because otherwise, how can his sister marry his brother? So actually, his sister, he has a half-sister on his mother's side who married his half-brother on his father's side who are not related to each other. Now when his brother dies, so he cannot do Yibum to his sister, right? Vachos Ishto, his wife's sister, and Eshes Achiv Me'imo. And this is a fundamental halacha. Yibum only works if it's your half-brother to your father, but not if you have a half-brother through your mother. So if your half-brother from your mother's wife dies, there is no Yibum, and the woman just goes free. Okay? The Eishes Achiv Shloya Bolamo, and your brother who was born. Well, we're going to go through all these cases in the Gemara. Don't worry, they're coming back. The Eishes, they will haunt us for a long time to come. Ve'eshes achiv shaloya bolamo, and another interesting one is if your brother, if you had a brother who died before you were born, and he had a wife, so there's no Yibum in that case, because it has to be that you and your brother were alive at the same time. So even though he might have left a widow, if you were born after after your brother died, so you don't have to do Yibum. And Kalaso, the final case given in Mishnah, is your own daughter-in-law. In other words, she was your daughter-in-law previously, and your son died, and then your daughter-in-law went and married your brother, and then your brother died. So in that case, she still remains your daughter-in-law. You're not allowed to do Yibum on her. Okay, so these are 15 women, and again, we're going to go back to these many times, who exempt themselves from Yibum because they're forbidden to the brother of the deceased. They exempt their co-wives from Yibum, and they exempt their co-wives from Yibum as well. Again, the co-wife is the most interesting case. In other words, if they were co-wife, they originally were the woman who's forbidden, and she had a co-wife, right? And then their husband died, and now the co-wife went and married did Yibum to one of the other brothers, and then that other brother died, so the co-wife of the co-wife is also exempted from Yibum. Okay? See, I heard that comment. Okay, starts tomorrow. Now this is not going to come back for a couple of blocks to the diagrams. Ksiva says matzos. This is a quote from a brayso. It's as if it says in the Bavli here it said Tanya, but it's not the Bavli. It's Yerushalmi, so it says Ksiva. It says matzos teochel. It says you eat matzos. Now this is not talking about Pesach. This is talking about Korban Mincha, right? The flour offering is eaten for a matzos. Now fishois, and this is all brayso. It says the fishois are the chol heter. The flour was permitted to eat v'nesron, and became forbidden to eat when it became a sacrifice. The chaz of which then subsequently becomes mutter again. Yochel, when after the komets, after the fistful of flour is placed atop the mizbeach, Yochel tachsel terishon doesn't go back to its original permissibility, which is that it can be eaten in any way, shape, or form, matzah, chametz, whatever. Matzos teochel. No, it says you have to matzos teochel, which means matzah, mitzvah. That is the command. Kayotzibo. Similarly, this is all the brayso. Yavama yavo. It says the yavam, right, the brother should have relations with his deceased brother's wife, widow. Now, originally, before this woman married his brother, she was, of course, mutter to this fellow. Then she married the guy's brother, and she became forbidden to this fellow. The Chaza V'Hutra. Now she becomes permissible again. Does she go back to original permissibility? No. She doesn't go back to original permissibility, where she was permissible to anybody to marry, right? Not just to this guy. She was permissible to anybody. Here it says mitzvah. Now only when she becomes permissible as a childless widow, she's only permissible to one person. Who's the one person she's permissible to? The brother, right? The husband's brother.
This is an interesting analogy. I don't remember that.
No, this is not a Bavli at all. The first two blot are completely not a Bavli. Yes, very fascinating. And the Gemara picks up on it at great length here. Rabbi Yossi Patam Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi explained the Bryce in the following fashion, similar to the way I just explained it. Matzos te'ochel mitzvah. It says a mitzvah eat the mincha as a matzah. Because it's permitted, before you consecrate it, meaning rotza lochol ochel. If you wanted to eat it, shlo lochol ein ochel. If you didn't want to eat it, you don't have to eat it. Tikdisha, when you consecrated it, the Nazar became forbidden, meaning nobody could eat it. Korev kumtza, when the fistful of flour taken from the mincha is placed atop the altar, the chazavucha becomes permissible again. So yochel lachzor leterishon does go back to its original permissibility. Roitzo lochel ochel. That if he wants to eat, he may eat it in any way, shape, or form, of course. If he doesn't want to eat it, he doesn't eat it. Talmud Lo is to go back to that permissibility. Talmud Lo, Pasuk says, Matzos te'ochel, it's got to eat his matzos. That's the mitzvah. Kayotzibo, similarly, Yevamo Yavo Aleh. The Yavam should have relations with the Yavama. Now, this is an important thing to remember. I guess I should say it right off the bat. On a Torah level, there's no marriage by Yevama. The Yibum is only marital relations. Right? If marital relations might not be the right word. It has to be that they have relations with each other. Whereas a marriage, a classic marriage, is contracted by money, by documents, or by relations. Yibum can only be done by relations. So therefore, what the pasuk is quite explicit, it says, Yevamo Yevo Eleh.
No vort.
No euphemisms, no vort, right? No vort, no chasna, just go straight, do not, I don't know if that's the right analogy. Right. The act is consummated, consummation is a good way of putting it, right? And that's going to be critical because it's going to come up again on later on in the Gemara many times. So says Gemara, so the Yavam should have relations with the Yavama, period. Mitzvah. That's the mitzvah. Originally it was permitted, this woman was permitted, before she married the brother, if he, this guy, let's say, wanted to marry her, could have married her. If he didn't want to marry her, he didn't have to marry her, right? Once she marries the brother, she's forbidden. And then when the brother dies without any kids, she becomes permissible again. Does she go back to her original permissibility? That if he wants to take her into her house, he's permitted. If he doesn't want to, he doesn't have to. That's why it says the Yavam has to have relations with her. Mitzvah, it's a mitzvah for him to do so and bring the woman into his house. That's one way of interpreting the Brisa. The next way of interpreting the Brisa is Rav Huna's. That is a fascinating way of interpreting it, which is really moralistic, and we very rarely see interpretations of Chumash like this, as we're about to say. Generally, interpretations of Chumash are value neutral. And this one's going to be a value positive. Wait till you see this. Rav Huna Patam Asisi looked the Brisa the following way. Matzos te'ochel mitzvah. Matzah should be consumed, that's a mitzvah. Said she was permitted until she was married by the brother. I'm sorry. Well, I mix the cases. Because since matzah was submitted before it was consecrated as a korban, since the flour was submitted before it was consecrated as a korban, lots of loichel, chametz, oichel. If you want to eat his chametz, you can eat it. Matzah oichel, if you want to eat his matzah, you can eat it. It's different than Rabbi Yosef's interpretation. Rabbi Yosef's interpretation was, if he wants to, he can eat it. If he doesn't want to, he doesn't have to eat it. But his interpretation is slightly different. If you want to eat the chametz, you can eat it. If you want to eat matzah, you can eat it. Hekdisha, once he made it hekdesh, once it's consecrated, Vanessa, it becomes forbidden. Karev kumtzav, then when the fistful of flour is placed on the mizbeach, chazer v'utra becomes mutter again. Yochel tachsa terishon, let's go back to its original permissibility. Roitza lochel chometz oichel matzah oichel. If you want to eat chometz, you can eat it as chometz. Want to eat as matzah, you can eat as matzah. Talmud Omar matzos teochel mitzvah. That's why it says the mitzvah is specifically to eat as matzos. Kayotzibo, similarly. Lefi Yevama, the Yavam should have relations with the Yevama. Mitzvah, it's a mitzvah, what does it mean? Since she was permitted before marrying the brother. Meaning, how was she permitted? Here's again different. Before it said he was permitted, meaning that, if this guy chose to marry her, could marry her. If this guy chose not to marry her, could have not married her. It's different. Before, we're assuming he wanted to marry her. But he could have married her for any purpose. If he wanted to marry her because she's a baroness, and if he marries her, he'll get the title of being a baron. Koines, he's allowed to do so. L'shem mom, he wants to marry her because she's the boss's daughter, and she's loaded to the gills. And that's why he wants to marry her. Koines, so he can marry for that purpose. Doesn't mention love here, it wasn't a value. Nisei slachiv, once she's married to the brother, Nesra, she's forbidden. Mates Achib Labayim, now his brother dies without any kids. Chazavucha, she's permitted again. Yochel Tachsor Letea Rishon, does she go back to original permissibility? Ratza Lichnos L'Shem Toar Kones, and if he wants to marry her now for a title, he can marry her. L'Shem Moment, if he wants to marry her now for a money, Kones, he can marry her for a money. Tamulomer Yevama Yavo Lev Mitzvah. That's why it says that Yavam has to come or have relations with her expressly for the purpose of mitzvah. You're not allowed to do Yibum for any other reason except for the mitzvah itself. Now the Bavli alludes to this. I don't remember the Bavli coming this explicitly out and saying this. Tosfos says, a very famous Tosfos in Yevamos says, that because of this, we don't do Yibum anymore nowadays. We just do Chalitza because we're afraid we don't do it for the right reasons. But I don't think it's as explicit as condemnation in the Bavli as it is in the Yerushalmi. And the Yerushalmi doesn't let go. Asid Rabhuna Akabashol. Rabhuna is like Abashol. The time we learned Abashol, Bryce Abashol Omer, HaKoines Esivimto L'Shem Noi, somebody who marries his sister-in-law, his brother's widow, because she's pretty, or L'Shun Dvarim Acher, or for any other purpose, Harezu Bilas Nus. It's a licentious relationship. The Korav of Vlad Mamzer, and it's almost as if the kid is a Mamzer. It's a very strong statement. You're rarely wrong.
I believe the statement is in the Bible, even though it's one of the sources of Shas inside.
Do you think Abishol's statement? I think is there. Yeah. Abishol's statement, but not the previous Gemara about L'Shem Torah Koines. About Abishol's, I think is. I think you're right about that. So if that's the case, Ma Abishol, ask what does Abishol hold like? Does he hold like Rabbi Akiva? Turning the page. We're on Omen base now. Does he hold like Rabbi Akiva? The top line. The Akiva Amar Yesh Mamzer V'Yavama. There's interesting halacha. Rabbi Akiva holds that if one has relations with the Yavama, in other words, not the Yavam, so then the child is a Mamzer. We don't hold that way. Right, because, no, that's about this, yeah, that's because Rabbi Akiva holds that any time there's a forbidden relationship, even if it's the penalty for that forbidden relationship is only flogging, so that suffices to make the issue of that relationship a mamzer. We hold it's only a mamzer if it's the issue of relationship for which the penalty is death and above. Okay? So therefore, because he says if you have improper intentions in the relations with your Yavama, that the kid is a mamzer.
You said death, you meant also.
Correct. Yeah. Well, except for needle. So it says the Gemara. So no, Madam Rabbi Akiva Yevamos is into. Rabbi Akiva is talking about a Yevama who had relations with somebody else who's not her Yavam. Madam Rabbi Shol, that which Rabbi Shol is talking about is Biyavimto with his own Yavam. And that's why, and the Gemara doesn't say this outright, but that's why Rabbi Shol just said, Korov Havlad Lios Mamzer. It's as if the kid is a Mamzer, but he's not actually a Mamzer because it's a moralistic deficit which he bears, because the Yibum was not done for the right purposes, not a halachic deficit which he bears. That's a critical distinction, obviously.
And the right purposes is don't marry her for love. Marry her for the mitzvah. The right
marry for the mitzvah.
According to the
right person the mitzvah, right.
But this ties into this ties into this Abba Shol.
That doesn't say it here explicitly. We don't know that yet. I don't know if the Yerushalmi is ever going to bring that down. But yeah, there is a Gemara like that in the Bavli. The Abba Shol's Chalitza is better than the Yibum, and Rabban Ol Yibum is better than Chalitza. Right, you're correct about that. Now, maybe there is no Mesaras L'Shas Yevamos. Maybe you're right. Maybe I was just as fools because no Mesaras L'Shas. Oh, there it is.
It's blank.
It's blank. No, but later on there is stuff. But it looks like it only quotes mostly from the Yerushalmi. Yeah, it doesn't seem to go Mesaras L'Shas to the Bavli. It's only close references to internally to Yerushalmi. Interesting. Okay, so it's a lot of guesswork whether it's actually Bavli or not, unlike the previous Masechtas. Anyway, so it says Gemara further. Asik Rabbi Yosef ben Chalafta. Rabbi Shol goes like Rabbi Yosef ben Chalafta. So Rabbi Yosef ben Chalafta, it's a fascinating Gemara. Yibem Mesishto, he was Miyabem, he had relations with his brother's widow. Chamesh Charishos Chorash. He plowed 5 times with Chamesh Natios Nata, and as a result of that, he planted 5 saplings. In other words, each time there was a pregnancy of a great Gadol B'Yisrael, a great scholar. Now it's not clear that Pnei Moshe grapples with this. Is it he had relations with the same woman 5 times, and that's it, no more, or is it? And in fact, even after the first time you have relations with the Yevama, every time you have relations with her, you are limited by doing l'shem mitzvah, and that's they only have relations with her 5 times for the rest of their life. Or is it talking about? No, he had 5 widows of 5 different brothers who he married, who he did Yibum with, and each one, the first time he had relations, he did it for the purpose of the mitzvah, and those relations generated each time a great scholar in Israel. Okay? Because it seems that when we say that it must be done only with the right motives and thoughts, that is going primarily or completely on the first relationship, not subsequently. But that's not the simple meaning. Right, it's a regular wife.
So the first relationship has to be more
the mitzvah of Yibum.
and then after that, you can do it
For whatever reason, right. But that doesn't seem to be the simple meaning of the Gemara. That's Pnei Moshe and the Korban Eda try and induce that into the Gemara. But the simple meaning of the Gemara is that with this woman, one woman, he had relations 5 times. The 5 times he did it for the purpose of mitzvah, and each time she happened to become pregnant. Well, you could say that too, but I don't know if that's what. I don't think that the Gemara would be bringing that out, but it's possible. Look at what it says here. V'derech sotin bar. Now, this is not in the Bavli. I guarantee it's not in the Bavli. It says, in fact, if you walk through Mei Sharim, and look at the clotheslines, you will see that they still have these sheets. And this obviously is the source for these sheets. The sheets with the holes, right? How do you know about this? So in any event, this is the source, obviously, for the sheet with the hole, because here it says, which the Chassidim use, many of the Chassidim still use, because here it says that in order to diminish his pleasure, he had relations with this Yevama through a sheet. Okay? Eluhain, I hope that didn't get on tape. Eluhain, these are the 5 kids he had as a result of these 5 relations. Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Menachem, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chalafta, Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Avdimus, Rabbi Yossi. Okay? They're all those kids. Ksiv, it says, Eras Eishas Achicha Lo Sagala. Now it says, the nakedness of your brother's wife is not revealed. Mashma, sounds like, Bein Eishas Achiv Me'aviv, whether it's your brother's wife and it's your brother on the father's side. Bein Eishas Achiv Mimo, it's your brother on your mother's side. And it sounds like also Bein Eishas Achiv She'er Lobo Lomo, whether your brother was alive at the same time as you, he didn't predecease your birth. Bein Eishas Achiv Shlo Lobo Lomo, or your brother's predeceased your birth. Ben L'chaim, it sounds like whether your brother's still alive and just divorced the woman. Ben L'chaim, even after your brother's dead. And it sounds like Ben She'esh Lo Banim, whether your brother had kids. Ben She'ein Lo Banim, whether your brother had no kids. So, what permitted this prohibition, which appears in Vayikra, the pasuk which we had in this past week's parsha, which is Hutzer Mikol Alidei Yibum. It was permitted from the general ban by the mitzvah Yibum, which appears in last week's parsha. Yochel Chol Davar, is it permissible under any circumstance, meaning even if it's your half brother through your mother, for example? It says more no. Nemar kan ki yeshu achim yachdav. Here it says in last week's parsha Kitei, if 2 brothers are dwell together, then one of them dies. V'nemar lahalan, it says elsewhere, meaning in Bereshis, Shnei Mosar Avadecha Achim. We, the 12 tribes, the 12 children of Yaakov, are brothers. Anachnu. Ma Achim Shneimar La'alom B'Achim Mina'ava Kosam Medaber. Just like the brothers mentioned by the 12 tribes of Yaakov are brothers from the father, meaning they would have different mothers, but they're all brothers from the father. Afka'achim Tapa Yubeis Omenalf. Now, Afka'achim Shneimar Kan. So 2 brothers mentioned here. B'Achim Mina'av. They're all brothers from the father's side, so not brothers from the mother's side. Yachtov, and they have to be together. Meaning, Prat Leishas Achim Shloya Balam, as opposed to a case where your brother predeceased your birth. Umeitz Echomam, and one of the brothers died. Hein Bibachain. Now that means that they were still married. I'm not sure exactly how to translate that phrase. Nobody is exactly, but how to translate precisely. What it means is that he was still his wife while he was alive, meaning that he had not divorced her previously. If he divorced her prior to his death, then there is no concept of yibum, right? It has to be that until the last moment he was married to her. If he divorced her prior to his death, so then there's no yibum. Yes, true. Granted, touche. So in any event, afilu girsho mates, if he divorced her, the afilu is kind of out of place. It means even, but it's not really in place here. If he divorced her and then he died, she's exempt from yibum. Uvein ein lo, and also it's only if he has no kids. Hoim yesh lo ben, if he has a kid, patura, she's exempt. Uksiven, it says, Ki es kol asher yaseh mikol toivo soel. Anybody does what is disgusting things, meaning having licentious relations, v'nichras, he undergoes chorus. V'lo esha sachim bichlal kol rayas avios. Yeah, this is of course this should include your brother's wife, together with all the other forbidden relationships. Fuchmi kol yet became permitted from the general prohibition, because of ibum. Yochel avshar kol arayas huchu kum mikol ma'idei. There are all other arayas permitted by the concept of yibum, meaning, let's say that again, like we had in our Mishnah, right? That your brother's wife is your daughter. So just like the prohibition on your brother's wife was permitted by yibum, maybe it's carte blanche, and even though she happens to also be your daughter, so it's also permitted by yibum. Of course, we're going through the background for our Mishnah right now. How do we know that's not the case? So Abizir B'Shem Rabbi Yisrael said a very funny thing, and the one is going to attack him for it. Aleh, It says Oleh here. The Oleh, it says here, Yevamo Yavo Oleh. The Yevama should have relations with, the Yavam should have relations with the Yevama. And it says Oleh also by the prohibition on marrying your sister, your wife's sister, right? Rashi means that Kormei means basar. Do not take two sisters to reveal their nakedness in their lifetime. So it says, just like Oleh, which is stated over here, over there, by the case of Yibum, his brothers from the same father, and that's the case he implies. So too the Oleha, which is stated by your wife's sister, applies even though she's married to your own brother. It's a very funny Gzeira Shava. We never saw Gzeira Shava like this before, and the Gemara is very distressed over it. Again, how's the Gzeira Shava work? It says Oleha by Yibum, and says Oleha by your wife's sister being prohibited. So the way he learns it, the Torah is going to tell us that even though you're allowed to marry, to be miyabim, your brother's wife, but not when it is your wife's sister and any other prohibited relationship. So one Oleh is coming to play off the other Oleh to tell us that it's true, this is permitted, but not in that case, which is a very strange Shava, because normally, right, there's no evil. That's exactly what it's going to tell us. Which is a very strange use of the word Oleh, because normally Oleh means some property over here transfers over there. But that's not what's happening here.
Positive and a negative.
Positive and negative, right. That don't transfer. The connection is almost being made to deflect as opposed to reflect. Okay? I'm always going to pick up on that. Rabbi Yami Bar Gila, Rabbi Acha, you see, they were sitting and schmoozing. Rabbi Acha said, Hodod, Rabbi Yisrael, he said over this Gzeira Shava, this funny Gzeira Shava, Rabbi Chanina. So Rabbi Yami Bar Gila, so Rabbi Yami Bar Gila said, hey, let's have some fun with this. Let's say the opposite. Maybe say, maybe the Oleh, now he made a nonsense drush out of this, just to show, we take it to the absurd, to show how it can't work. Well, it says Oleh by your wife's sister, and that's not talking about where she's Yevama. Maybe Oleh stated by Yevama is not talking about Yevama. In other words, let's turn it around and see if we can work it the other way. Racha said, what are you talking about? HaTorah Omer b'Yevama. That's what Parsha is talking about. So Yevama. V'ata Omer b'Sheni Yevama. It's talking about, you say it's not talking about Yevama? We're saying it's absolute nonsense. So Rabbi Gidel said, what you're saying is also nonsense. In other words, this statement of Yetzer China doesn't make any sense. HaTorah Omer b'Sheni Yevama. Maybe the Torah was saying that the prohibition of marrying wife's sister is when she's not Yevama. How do you know that's true by Yevama? This is not a classic Gzeira Shava. Vikmid Rabbi Acha Kivlei. Rabbi Acha got upset at him. Rabbi Yossi said, now here's the Mechal Mayim and Shaitar, so both changed in the next line. Should be the Rabbi Binyamin, Rabbi Yossi said, Lo the Rabbi Binyamin Bar Gido Poli Gad Rabbi Acha. Rabbi Bar Gila is not arguing Rabbi Acha. It's not arguing on the concept that, of course, when the Yevama is forbidden for you for some other reason that you can't have relations with her, El du makpid al lishna the shamem in Rabbi. He's upset at the drasha as he heard it from his Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina, because he denies that there's such a concept of a deflective Gzeira Shava as opposed to reflective Gzeira Shava. So Maikadu. How do you come out? Meaning, how do we learn that where there's an additional prohibition on the brother's wife, you may not do evil with her? So it says, well, I'm glad he asked. Yevama Yevama. It says the Yavam shall have relations with the Yevama. Ma Oleh shnemer lahalom b'she'eno Yevama. This I might say, and this is again, it's starting from the question. Just like the Oleh, which is stated over there, where you're not allowed to marry two sisters, is where it's not Yevama. Af Oleh shnemer kana filu yevimto, And here too, where it says Oleh, even where your Yevama is your wife's sister, perhaps it's mutter. Amrataya, that's why the Torah says, Visha el achosa lo sikach. That's why the Torah says, explicit Vayikra, never take two sisters. And that explicit pasuk is coming to us, even where it's a Yevama, right? Even where you have the possibility to take them, you can't take both. So actually we're learning from Vayikra that Yibum doesn't apply, not from something internally in Dvarim, where it talks about Yibum, but from Vayikra we're learning that there's no possibility of taking two sisters. So there, and as a result we extrapolate to all other rights. No, I don't. It may be, but that's getting to the reasons for the mitzvah. I'm not denying what you're saying as validity, but it's not relevant to our discussion. That is for the realm of, say, the Sefer HaChinuch, to understand why it's prohibited. But that's not relevant to our discussion today. We're just looking at the character of the mitzvah as opposed to the reason behind the mitzvah. So I can't answer your question. Okay? So it's a fair question, but not in this game. So says the Gemara. And the Elohi. I only know that she herself, let's say your brother was married, wife, but the co-wife. So that's the language of Baker. Even the co-wife. So that means, again, that's Rosh is telling us don't take a co-wife of her. Now that means, since it's setting, I don't know the exact English term for the infinitive or something like that, in other words, it's continuous. Any doesn't just say Lo tikach sarasa, but litzror, right? I don't know. Here it's not. Here it doesn't seem to be the double resh. Maybe that's a bavli. I don't know. But tam lo litzror, lo litzarasa, lo litzarasa, not the tzara and not the. Oh, you're right. The commentator says like you could have said lo tzar, and the extra resh. But you're right. Okay, shkoyach. So name it, not the co-wife nor the co-wife of the co-wife. And the achosishon, that tells us that if your wife's sister is married to your brother, there's no yibum. Shah arayis minayim. How do you know it's true about all other arayis? Let's say your daughter or some other your mother-in-law. How do you know that those two you can't do even if they're married to your brother? So it says more very interesting answer. Says more, Rabbi Zir B'Shem Yisrael said, Kal v'chomer. So logic. Machos ishtom yuchedes, your wife's sister is unique in that she's more lenient than other rayas. You know why? It's possible that this prohibition will become mutter after it is prohibited. What's the case? Where your wife, Rachmana litzlan, dies, if your wife dies, so then you're allowed to marry your wife's sister. So while your wife is alive, even if she's divorced, you're still allowed to marry your sister. But if she dies, if you can arrange that, then you can marry her sister, right? So that's
same mother-in-law.
Yeah, those are the breaks. So in that case, it's more lenient than other rights, and it becomes permissible after time. If she's a reyes, she's prohibited in the Yibum. Sharka rights, the other prohibited relationships, which do not become mutter once they are also lo koshke, is not a kavachomer that they remain also that they're also in Yibum. Mazu ever put their sarasa, and just like this, the forbidden relationship exempts the co-wife. Have sharka rights, so to all other arayis, pochos are saying they exempt their co-wives. Akadun Rabbi Kiva. Now that works like Rabbi Kiva. Now Rabbi Kiva holds onshin minadin. Onshin minadin means I can learn punishments from a kal v'chomer, and I can also learn therefore not just punishments of kal v'chomer, but also parameters and prohibitions from a kal v'chomer. Rabbi Shmuel holds ein onshin minadin, and that is effectively learn. So I can't say if Reuven gets so and so punishment, kal v'chomer for kal v'chomer Shimon gets that punishment, right? And so I can't say if there's prohibition A, kal v'chomer is prohibition B. I need an explicit pasuk for every single prohibition in the Torah, right? So if that's the case, every single punishment, every single prohibition, it's both in Einshin Minadin and in Masir and Minadin. You need punishments and penalties and warnings for each and every possible, each and every prohibition in the Torah. So then if that's the case, how do I know that according to him there's a case of arayas other than a prohibited relationships other than your wife's sister, which precludes Yibum? So Rabbi Shmuel also says, Tiny Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Shmuel taught us Kavachomer, the following Kavachomer. Ma achos ishtam yuchedes erva. Achos, your wife's sister is unique in that it's an erva shechayovin as done occurs, in that you get if you do it intentionally, killed by Hashem. If you unintentionally have to bring a sacrifice. Harei asur yisyabe. He's forbidden to do yibum. Av kol erva shechayovin as done occurs. So to any erva where if you do it intentionally, you get kares. And unintentionally, you bring a chatos. She's forbidden to get yibum. Now the Ritba says, wait a minute, he can't use a kavachomer. We just what? You didn't know? You thought it was your wife. It was dark. You went into the room, had relations with a woman, you didn't know who it was. You thought it was your wife. Turns out it was your wife's sister. She didn't tell you. Okay, use your imagination, or maybe don't use your imagination. But there is a way of it happening. Okay, so in any event, so the Ritbaz actually takes out the words kavachomer, and he says Rabbi Shmuel can't learn a kavachomer because he holds einon sheminadin. Rather, it's called a memotzinu. Memotzinu is a logical extrapolation, and we're going to see what the difference is momentarily. Logical extrapolation means, if this is the quality, the level of this prohibition, that if you do it intentionally, you get killed by Hashem. Do it unintentionally, then you have to bring a korban. So to any prohibition which is similar precludes yibum. Okay? You're hung up on this thing. It's not fair.
I didn't know who she was and I'm sticking to that.
Okay. Says to go on further. I cannot respond to that. Says to go on further. What's the difference between the two opinions? So interesting thing is almana l'kohen gadol, a widow for a kohen gadol. In other words, the kohen gadol's brother, who was not a kohen gadol is not allowed to marry a widow. A regular kohen is allowed to marry a widow. The kohen gadol's brother, a plain kohen, was married to a widow. Now the brother dies. So can the kohen gadol do yibum in that situation? So says the Gemara, if you hold Madamar Erva Sheish Letter Lachi Surah, he holds that the foundation line, the baseline is an erva which is permitted after its prohibition is even that's also right. So certainly this one, since she's not going to be permitted after she's prohibited, she's certainly prohibited to do to bring yibum. Certainly precludes yibum. But Mandamar Hil said it's only the erva shechayom and elsdona kores. We learn out for only the level of an erva for which if you did intentionally get kores, so shekos chatos and unintentionally get chatos, harezu asura lis yabim. You want this one to be prohibited for yibum? No. Since the prohibition kohen gadol marrying a widow is not a one which generates the death penalty nor korban, it only generates flogging. She should be permitted to do yibum. In other words, the kohen gadol should be allowed to do yibum in that situation. Very interesting thing. Where it says if you're going to, depends what if your criterion is that anything which is, even if it's mutter, once becomes usher subsequently, like your wife's sister, then in that case I say that it's prohibited and precludes yibum. So, and certainly it's something more severe. So then this is more severe in that sense because it cannot become mutter once it is prohibited. Because in Amana, a widow is never permitted to kohen gadol.
Well, what's going to happen is he'll just have to resign from the...
No, he can't resign from the kohen gadol. Kohen gadol, once he resigns, is still prohibited to marry a widow. That's it. You're stuck for life.
Something illogical about it. That is that yibum could only be done on an album. Just by definition.
Right.
No, but she had to have been a widow beforehand. You're right. This widowhood doesn't count. That we're willing to stipulate, that this widowhood doesn't count, because this relationship transcends the widowhood. That's a good point. But we're talking about she was previously a widow. That's a very good point, though I didn't think of it before. But you understand that must be the Gemara's good case.
I don't understand what difference does it make to us about the Kohen Gadol with this widow, but the prior widow has no bearing on it because he didn't marry her in that state.
No, but it's his brother who married her. So his brother, but he's not, for vis-a-vis him, it's still a widow.
Was he a Kohen Gadol while the brother died, or was
I don't know if
he
that's the germane.
Kohen before the brothers died?
Right now he's a Kohen Gadol. Right now he can't marry a widow. I don't know if that's germane. I don't think it is germane. Doesn't matter. So that's what presents the difficulty, that a Kohen Gadol cannot marry a widow no matter when she became widow, except for this relationship which we're stipulating. On the other hand, if you're talking about it has to be something which is of capital nature, so it's not capital nature, it's a minor prohibition. All right, well, we'll make the theme after tomorrow, because I don't even know if we have a minyan now, so we'll make it after tomorrow, if you don't mind. So in any event, so let's just go on to finish the Omen. So it says, Rabbi Ivu bar Nagre Crispei, a strange name, B'Shem Rabbi Shimon Loki said, I think we had in the past though, Lo ti'e eishes hameid, so he said, you know what, even if you hold that the criterion is, generally speaking, something which is of capital nature precludes Yibum, I can preclude Yibum here as well. How so? Lo ti'e eishes hameid salchutza li'zor. It says, the wife of the dead brother should not go out to a foreign person. Now, zu isha she zara lo. Now, this is a cool preclusion. It has to be a woman who's now okay to him. She shouldn't go to a stranger. But this woman is strange for him already, right? Means a woman who he could be miyab, shouldn't go to a strange man. But this is a strange woman. She's vis-a-vis him, she's a stranger because the Torah prohibited. The parameter of Zor already exists here, and that precludes Yibum. Okay? So it says, the Torah said, Lo ti'eh lo li'isha afilu mitzvah. Shouldn't be him for a wife. It's not even a mitzvah. So if that's the case, so it says, well, the flip side that should be true as well. Mi'ata lo te'tzricha chalitza. She shouldn't require chalitza. If you prohibited the widow for the Kohen Gadol because she's already a Zara vis-a-vis him from Yibum, so she shouldn't require the flip side of the ceremony, which is Chalitza. She's like all the cases in our Mishnah. If it's your daughter who's married to your brother, she doesn't need either Yibum or Chalitza to release her. So is that the case here? Says Rabbi Yirmiyah said Yevimto. No. It says Yevimto several times, or at least twice, here. And Ribsa b'Chalitza. That means, interesting pasuk, it says that it's telling us that there are more chalitzas than there are yibums. Amazing thing. There are more times that she's considered Yevama vis-a-vis chalitza than vis-a-vis yibum. Because it says yivimto several times. So it says, Matani Rabbi Shmuel says, Me'en yavmi. It said, we're going back, he's giving another reason for a Kohen Gadol not to have to do yibum on a mana, on a widow. Zu shemien yabmi, it's got to be when do you do chalitza? A person a woman whose yavam repudiates her. Lo sheminu shemayim, as opposed to the case where the heaven repudiates her, meaning that Hashem doesn't let her marry this guy. So in that case, she doesn't require chalitza. So that's what's their question. She shouldn't require chalitza either, since she's an almana, and the Torah forbade the Kohen Gadol to take her. So it's not the Kohen Gadol disassociating himself from her. It's she disassociating. It's Hashem will disassociate him from her. So she shouldn't require tzricha. That's why I need that which Rabbi Yirmiyah said. Yevimto. It says Yevimto twice. HaTorah ribsa b'chalitza. The Torah made you chalitza more times than it made you do yibum. So that's a very interesting thing. It comes out that actually, according to this Gemara, we're not quite finished yet, and Almana vis-a-vis a Kohen Gadol cannot do yibum, but they must do chalitza. And there's the first time already we have an exception in the Masechta, a lighter prohibition, since it's lighter in nature than capital, so therefore it's fuzzy. Normally, if you don't have to yibum, you don't have to chalitza. You can't do the in ceremony, you can't do the out ceremony. But in this case, you can't do the in ceremony, but you must do the out ceremony. And learning that it's a deraisa, the Torah itself, by saying Yevimto several times, makes that requirement. Rabun Bachia boy komi Rabbi Zir asked for Rabbi Zir. Rabban Kohen go Mausha Teitzich Chalitza. Does it require Chalitza? Omar, he said, and it should be Omar Lay, not Omar Lo. Omar Lay, Efshel Omar Kedushin Toivsimbo. Can you say if marriage can be contracted with her? You say it doesn't require Chalitza? Meaning, if a Kohen Gadol decides intentionally to go marry, or even unintentionally, but he decides to go marry a widow against the Torah's will, the marriage is contracted. It's not the same thing like marrying your sister. You can't marry your sister; it doesn't take effect. It's meaningless. But if Kohen Gadol marries an almana, so that is a meaningful ceremony. They are living in sin, but they are married. It's a different sin. They're not living out of wedlock. It's a different sin. So if that's the case, that explains why she requires chalitza. Because although they're not allowed to do yibum, the yibum would work if they did it. And that's why it requires chalitza on the flip side in order to get out of it. Right. It's a fascinating concept. Because it actually means the Torah prohibits a relationship, but if you contract it, the relationship works. Which is a very rare thing in the Torah. Generally, the Torah prohibits something it can't work. What? Consummated. Right. Right. I meant if consummated. Flat. Yeah. It can't be contracted no matter what by Yibum. That's right. But if take a marriage, a Kohen Gadol can't contract the marriage with Amara, and that's why he can also do Yibum with her. How require chalitza? Did it? No, but that wouldn't work with your sister. It only works with Amana Kohen Gadol, which is a lower level prohibition. Okay, so we have to still distinguish between levels, because consummation also doesn't affect marriage with a woman who's prohibited you on a capital level. Only a woman who's prohibited to you on a just plain negative level without the capital level attached to it. No. Oh no, consummation is an additional crime. We'll talk about it tomorrow because actually it's complex and they wanted to have a marv already. Okay, and we're in the middle of a sugya actually. We'll come back to it tomorrow. All right, boys, whoever's here in the base medrash now, if you could stay a couple of minutes after marv, we're going to make a Siyum Seder Moed in the Yerushalmi, and we do need a minyan. And there is food.
And drink.
If everybody can just bear with us for a couple of minutes, I'd like to make a Siyum on Seder Moed in the Yerushalmi. Everybody can gather around the table. As some of you might know, this is the only known Daf Yomi Yerushalmi English shiur in the entire world. So it's a special schus, of course, for us to be Messiahim, another Seder. We already began tonight Yevamos, and this is for the Siyum of Moed. Unlike, I won't keep you, unlike the Bavli, which ends Moed with Chagiga, Yerushalmi ends Moed with Moed Katan. And the last few words in Moed Katan, according to the Yerushalmi, are Tani. Ein molichin chalilin lebeis ha'ava. On Yontif, Moed Katan is of course primarily about Chol HaMoed, although it also has to do with Havelus, but it has to do also with Chol HaMoed, and that is its primary topic. And appropriately enough, this is a topic which blends Chol HaMoed and Avelus, to finish Moed Katan. And Molichin Chalin Beis Evel, one is not allowed it seems on Chol HaMoed that we're talking about what one may or may not do in order to disturb the sanctity of the Chol HaMoed. One may not take Chalilim, which are musical instruments, to the Beis Evel. As you know, in those days, they used to play musical instruments. The Chinese still do this. But they used to, then even the Jews used to play musical instruments at their levias. So one is not allowed to do that on Chol HaMoed. One is allowed to bring chalilim to a Beis HaSimcha where there's some simcha mitzvah going on, or the Beis HaMishta to a house in general where there's some mishnah going on. Again, because this all falls in the parameters of Simchas Yontif when it's permissible to do so. Now, of course, there's certain simchas one cannot make on Chol HaMoed because they marvin simcha b'simcha, but when it's the type of simcha which is permissible, then one can take it. This sounds a little bit like what the Chazon Ish says. The Chazon Ish says that there is a prohibition of hotzah even on Chol HaMoed. We generally don't think about this, but there's a parameter on Chol HaMoed that one is not allowed to do malachas unless they are for the purpose of enjoying the yontif, and that's part of exactly of Chol HaMoed. And that's why, of course, one is not supposed to write except with a shinui, or if it's necessary for one's business or for one's divrei Torah, and so on and so forth. One is not even supposed to drive except if one is doing it for the context of a mitzvah, either the mitzvah of going to daven or to learn, or the mitzvah of enjoying yontif, such as going to the amusement park, if one can define it that way. But one is not allowed to do malachos which are inherently completely not for the purpose of Chol HaMoed. And the Chazon Ish says it seems to him that the same thing applies to hotzah, to carrying on Chol HaMoed. One is not allowed to carry if it's not for the purpose of Chol HaMoed, unless, of course, there is an Eruv, in which case it would be permitted because there is an Eruv in place. So therefore, it sounds from this Yerushalmi, which prohibits taking chalilim to the Beis Hevel, although one could give other reasons perhaps for it, but it sounds in Yerushalmi name of Tosefta that it's prohibited because of taking things on Chol HaMoed, Shalol Tzorcha. Achulach Seder Moed, Mitamad Yerushalmi Vadrachlon, Daitlach Seder Moed, Mitamad Yerushalmi Datachalon, Lanistar Sheminach Seder Moed, Mitamad Yerushalmi, Lo Tisnash Minon, Lo Ba'amadev, Lo Ba'amadorasi. Achulach Seder Moed, Mitamad Yerushalmi Vadrachlon, Daitlach Seder Moed, Mitamad Yerushalmi Datachalon, Lo Nitzla Sheminach Seder Moed, Mitamad Yerushalmi, Lo Tisnash Minon, Lo Ba'amadev, Lo Ba'amadorasi. Achulach Seder Moed, Mitam Yerushalmi Vadrachlon, Daitlach Seder Moed, Mitam Yerushalmi Vatachalon, Lo Nisna Sheminach Seder Moed, Mitam Yerushalmi, Lo Tisna Sheminach, Lo Ba'amadev, Lo Ba'amadasi. Yirtzon Fanecha, No Hinu Ve'evel Seder Sheteikrom, Schom Seder Lo Mazeh, Seiman Lo Mavach, Anir Ba'Papa, Rami Ba'Papa, Nachma Ba'Papa, Choy Ba'Papa, Moed Ba'Papa, Rafa Ba'Papa, Rochesh Ba'Papa, Adar Sucher Ba'Papa, Adar Ba'Papa, Dor Ba'Papa. Arev no his the brace of so pinifios am Khabit so you nach klorm mit zayn Khabit so no de shmecha from de sar sacha no evet khachmein mit sach khilon li bi tamim khukach lo ma moibosh vam ashkach kudach givam khisani bruch ator no lam de khukach amen 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 selvat modim anachnu fanachnu hin be besed shel santo khaken mi yoshe bezamedosh lo santo khaken mi yoshe konot shon mashkim hem mashkim on mashkim de betor be mashkim dvarim betevi One amelin, him amelin. One amelin, kalm socher, v'hem amelin, v'enim kalm socher. One rotzim, v'hem rotzim. One rotzim, chayel, v'mabav, v'hem rotzim, v'shachas. Shneim avatolim, terdim, v'shachas. Ad sheidom, v'yomim, v'yechtzum, v'yomim, v'ani yeftach, boch. Yotam, v'nech, v'anelu, henu. Kashem, sha'azatonu, l'sayim, seder, moed, mitam, Yerushalmi. Kain tazlein l'has concerning lachem l'saimom li'mod l'lamei lishma v'lasos l'kaim etzkodi b'esamud l'sach b'yava skus kol tanoim v'amoraim salmidei chachamim yamod lanu u'zarenu shol yomu shator mipinu b'zarenu v'zer zaynu ad olav tiskayim bonu b'yisalecha v'tamcha u'tzcha v'shach v'tishma alecha v'akitzosa his Givir Yubu Yomecha Yisivcha Shnos Chaim Orchim Yimina Yisrael Osher V'Chavod Anoya Zamayter Noy V'Vech V'Samol V'Shalom